We're in lockdown again. Hooray! So what I thought I'd do this week is give you some recommendations. I've got a list here of TV shows, films, books, recipes, YouTubers, music, games, and podcasts. These are all things that I discovered in 2020 that I think are great, and you've probably heard of some of them, but maybe not all of them, and perhaps they might help you to fill the inevitable large void which lockdown brings. No need to take any notes, so don't run away and get a pen and paper. I've put all the information that you'll need down below there. Right, let's get started.
Daddy?
Oh, yes, Leo?
Do you think the internet really needs another middle-aged man telling people what films they should watch?
Okay, I have 3 film recommendations for you from films that I saw in 2020. The first 2, though, I'm sorry, are not available to be seen at the moment, but they are going to be available for streaming very soon, I'm sure. I saw them at the London Film Festival last autumn, I watched them on my laptop as part of the film festival. Didn't actually go anywhere, obviously. First one is Druck, or Another Round in English, which is a Danish film by Thomas Vinterberg, stars Mads Mikkelsen, who you probably definitely do know, and that is a brilliant film about a load of middle-aged men who follow the theory that your blood alcohol level should be slightly higher than it is naturally at all times. So there are a group of teachers who just start drinking very regularly all the time. It's really good, very funny. The second one is called Rose, a love story, and that is actually directed by first-time director Jennifer Sheridan, who I actually know and am friends with and have worked with before, and hopefully she's going to be a part of the 531 interviews as soon as we get past lockdown, and she can talk a bit about that movie. But do look out for it. It's a chilling, really suspenseful, quite unnerving horror movie set in the woods somewhere. It's really different, really beautifully filmed. Look out for that. And the third one you can watch now. We watched this just before Christmas. Actually, I think we watched it on Christmas Eve, and it's called The Vast of Night. You can see it on Amazon Prime, and it's kind of a homage to The Twilight Zone, and it is a beautiful film. It is sort of about aliens, but not in the sense of the film Alien. It's not a shock a minute. It's not really exciting, but it's got a lovely kind of deep sense of foreboding throughout, and the way it's filmed is unbelievable. Really small budget, but a really beautiful film that I really enjoyed. So there you go. The Vast of Night is a nice link into my YouTuber recommendations. The first one is called Dark Corners Review, which specialises in reviewing and remembering classic B movies, although they do some more modern movies as well. That's really good fun. Full disclosure, it's my brother's actually quite heavily involved with that channel, but it is, regardless of that, really good fun. The kind of channel that you start having a sort of quick look at on a Saturday and then come out of the wormhole again the following Tuesday. And on a similar note, if you are a movie buff, check out The Critical Drinker, who is a really funny reviewer of both good and bad films. He does some lovely stuff. His writing is absolutely spot on, and his delivery is brilliant. Have a look at him. Now, at the beginning of last year, I was reading a lot of footballer autobiographies for my own book, Second Yellow, that I wrote with John Smith. And to be honest, when that was finally out of the way and I could start reading other books, it was a bit of a relief. I saw this fantastic documentary by Greg Davis about the movie Kes last year. It might still be on the BBC iPlayer. If it is, well worth checking out. And it was such a great documentary, it really inspired me to go back and read the source novel by Barry Hines, A Kestrel for a Knave. Now, I've seen the film loads of times, and I think I sort of thought I must have read the book, but I don't think I ever have. So I went back and read that, and it is fantastic. I really highly recommend that. It's only a slim volume, but it's such a beautiful book. And then the other week, loyal subscriber Callum asked me for any book recommendations, and one of the people I said was James M. Cain, who I think was a fabulous writer. His writing is so precise. He writes with just such clarity and economy, and he's so clear and he's so accessible and gripping, but at the same time it does feel quite weighty as well when you read his books. It feels like, you know, proper novel. And I've read most of his stuff now, and what I read last year was Mildred Pierce, and like a lot of his books, that's obviously been turned into a film, and a few years ago it was also a fantastic mini-series with Kate Winslet as well. And Mildred Pierce might be his best work. I mean, it's absolutely devastating. I really highly recommend any of his books, but yeah, why not start with Mildred Pierce? I tend to listen to podcasts in two different places. One, when I'm cooking in the kitchen, and two, when I'm out for a stroll, a bit like this. I'm actually listening to one now, which is kind of confusing when I'm trying to speak to you, but I have got 3 podcast recommendations for you. The first one, if you want an interview podcast that's kind of interesting and laid back and a little bit different with some diverse interviewees, then listen to Our House, hosted by Paul and Claire. I've actually been on that, was on Christmas Day, if you want to give that a listen. It's a really lovely interview podcast, highly recommended. Second one is by comic actor and comedian Mike Wozniak, who I found out about mainly because he's going to be on the upcoming series of Taskmaster a bit later this year, and he's got a podcast called the St Elwick's Neighbourhood Association Newsletter Podcast, and he's basically invented this entire world by playing a character called Malcolm, and he's invented this village, and he's sort of done a parish magazine in podcast form. It's completely unique. There's nothing else quite like it out there. Really funny, really highly recommended if you like a bit of dry humour. And then there's Brian and Roger. Brian and Roger is a short form podcast. The episodes only last about 10 or 15 minutes. It's written and performed by Dan Skinner and Harry Peacock, who play those two characters, and it's done completely through voicemail messages left for each other. And it is an incredible piece of work. I think they've done 2 or 3 series now. It is really funny. Brian is an absolute arsehole of a character, one of the biggest monsters you'll ever find anywhere, and Roger is this sort of meek, friendly person who's willing to do almost anything to keep Brian happy, and they get into some incredible scrapes, some incredible stories, you know, beyond the realms of imagination, really. It's there's nothing else quite like it out there. Definitely give that a listen. Quick mention for this: Harry Potter's Scrabble. Leo got it for Christmas. I mean, I already love Scrabble, it's probably the best game in the world, but adding like spells that enable you to completely derail your opponent takes it to a even higher level. But if you're not keen on that, why not try the Cuddly Toy Slip and Slide, which is a game me and Leo invented in the last lockdown. Basically, you bowl your cuddly toys and try and get them to stop on a line that you've put on the floor, just like this. Pedro! Come on, Pedro! Yes, a 3!
I'm not sure you're going to do this.
I think it's quite hard to recommend TV shows because all the best ones get talked about so much. Like everyone else last year, I thought I May Destroy You was fantastic, and I thought The Queen's Gambit was brilliant, and obviously I'm a massive fan of Better Call Saul, and if you haven't started watching Better Call Saul yet, there's no better time than lockdown to really get into it. Start watching it, get into it, and really enjoy the slow burn. Now's the time. But in terms of shows that perhaps didn't punch through as much as those last year, Giri Haji, which did win a lot of awards. It was a British-Japanese cop drama. It was originally on the BBC, but it's now available on Netflix. That was really well done and something really different, and blending things happening in Tokyo and Japan and things happening in London. That was a really good series. Highly recommend that. And then there was a series on Netflix called I Am Not Okay With This, which was yet another sort of superpower comedy drama thing. But this one felt, to me at least, a lot different to a lot of the others, which I've become a little bit bored by. It just felt a bit different. It was funny. It was quite violent in places. It was really unexpected. It was very well acted. I don't know if it's got a second series, but it was really good. And it's in nice 30-minute bite-sized chunks. So if you do watch it, you may find yourself, like we did, binging it quite quickly. Yeah, so recipes then. I'm a big believer that a new, really delicious recipe can kind of lift your whole being, and that certainly happened to me. I've recommended this book to you before, Mira Soda's East. I think this is the greatest cookery book I've ever had. These recipes in here have revolutionised my cooking, and they are fantastic. They are all totally accessible and relatively easy to do. I cannot recommend this book high enough. And here is, I mean, there's loads of great recipes in here. I could have chosen almost anything, but I'm going to go with the roasted paneer aloo gobi. Really simple to put together. Just tomatoes, paneer, cauliflower, potatoes, a few other bits of ginger and onions and that kind of thing. Some roasting, you put it all together. That is a fantastic meal. Cannot recommend that high enough. Particularly good in the summer. I know it's not helpful now, but you can eat it in the winter as well. Still delicious. And then just got this book fairly recently, Ottolenghi Flavour. That's also really, really good. But I love pasta. I can eat pasta all day, every day. I have no problem with that. And this is something really new, even for me. It's one pan orecchiette puttanesca. Probably saying that all wrong. But this is like a pasta dish which you cook all in one pan. You don't boil the pasta in water and add it to stuff. It cooks in all the sauce that you make yourself. It's got tomatoes, it's got olives, it's got capers, it's got paprika, chickpeas. It is incredibly flavourful and really easy to put together. An absolutely delicious pasta dish. So 2 recipes there that I very highly recommend. Don't ask me about music in pub quizzes unless the questions are about Squeeze, Louis Armstrong, Nina Simone or Joni Mitchell. I'm pretty likely to get about 0 in the music round. But if you insist, I also really love Ben Folds, and late last year I picked up a couple of his albums which I hadn't got. The first one, So There, which is apparently a chamber pop album, and that is absolutely fantastic. I'll still keep listening to it at the moment, and it's even got a song on it called F10DA, which manages to combine teaching basic musical notes with extreme profanity. Fantastic. And I also picked up his live album, which for some reason I never got, and that is absolutely wonderful. And there's a couple of tracks in there with some amazing audience participation that will send tingles up your spine if you like that kind of thing. So yes, those are my musical recommendations, and that is the end of this week's recommendation vlog. I'll see you next week with something else.